Hello, viewers. I'm Dr. Ranjita Sengupta. I am an invasive cardiologist in central New Jersey, practicing with Cardiology Associates of Somerset County in Bridgewater, New Jersey. Welcome to our Heart to Heart Health Chat, a different kind of show where we talk about different health topics, which is user friendly and informative. Today, we are going to talk about a very important topic, high blood pressure, medically known as hypertension. According to the CDC, or the Centers for Disease Control, about 75 million of US patients are affected with this condition called high blood pressure or hypertension. But the worrisome part is about 50% of the people are on medications or treated for this condition. That's an alarming number. Uncontrolled high blood pressure can lead to stroke or heart attacks, and it is known as a silent killer. We are even seeing this in the younger population, but we know that if you take steps ahead, we can prevent this. And to educate us on this and to chat with us on hypertension, I welcome my esteemed colleague, Dr. Shivang Trivedi, who is with us to tell us more and educate us on this topic. Dr. Shivang Trivedi has been in practice for over 18 years. He is triple board certified in cardiology, nuclear cardiology, and internal medicine. He practices with me in Bridgewater. He has his training as a surgeon in Gujarat, India. Then he got his training first with research in anesthesia and then with residency and fellowship at esteemed Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn. Welcome, Shivang, to our very different show, our Heart to Heart Health Chat.
Thank you, Ranjita, and thank you for inviting me on this show. Hopefully, I will be able to provide some information to your viewers about this very important health topic of hypertension.
So, Shivang, can you just tell us what is hypertension or high blood pressure that is commonly known as?
So, hypertension is a very common health condition that almost one third of the adult US population is suffering from. And as you said, half of the patients are not adequately controlled on medications and has a lot of health implications. Blood pressure is basically known as hypertension when patient has higher blood pressure than normal numbers. The systolic, the top number, is the blood pressure which, when heart contracts, is the number that we measure as systolic blood pressure. When the heart relaxes, that blood pressure is called diastolic, or the lower number.
Right.
And treatment has very important health implications, and it is a very important disease that affects a lot of comorbidities.
Right. Some issues that I have faced personally in managing hypertension, and I will get your input on this, is a lot of patients ask me, are there any natural ways of taking care of high blood pressure?
That's a very good question. Blood pressure most of the time needs medication, but cutting down on salt is the main important thing that a person needs to do to lower the blood pressure. Exercise, listening to the physician's recommendation, dietary restrictions, avoid salt, avoid excessive alcohol, exercise regularly, and stop smoking, try to lose weight. All these non-medication approaches help control blood pressure. Every time blood pressure increases, systolic or diastolic, more than 10 millimeter of mercury, the chances of other comorbidities like stroke increases drastically. So controlling blood pressure with non-pharmacological or non-medication approaches and listening to the physician's recommendation, take medications regularly, be compliant, have significant health benefits.
You mentioned a very important thing, exercise, which is very important not only for hypertension but for a lot of other heart healthy conditions. What do you recommend in terms of exercise that should help in reducing high blood pressure?
That's another good question about the exercise. Regular exercise has significant health benefit. Typically, the American Heart Association and the societies recommend about 180 minutes of exercise every week. Any kind of exercise is good, be mobile, not be inactive. Treadmill exercise, regular exercise is extremely important. You can divide 10 minutes of exercise every day in couple of sessions every day if you don't have enough time to do exercise at a stretch. But anytime activity exercise is extremely important for overall cardiovascular risk reduction and for blood pressure management.
Right. That was an excellent approach to exercise, Shivang. What I tell my patients to motivate them to exercise is when you exercise on a regular basis, you release something called endorphins. And I have named it happy hormones, because what happens is with exercise, about 30 minutes a day, if you can do it on a regular basis, these happy hormones not only help to reduce blood pressure, reduce your cholesterol, get your diabetes under better control, but it also gives you a sense of happiness, a sense of well-being, which is so very important in our day-to-day stressful life. So my friends, go out there, get on your treadmill. If you can do it for 30 minutes every day, maybe split it 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night. Get it moving. Choose something that you like. Maybe take up a dance class. Maybe take up something that you never had a chance to do it. For those of us viewers who are joining in now, we are talking about hypertension or high blood pressure today. We talked about the non-medical approach of treating high blood pressure or natural ways by lifestyle modification of treating blood pressure. But right now we are going to talk about medically treating high blood pressure. What are the medications, what to watch out for when taking the medications, and what to do and what not to do. We have with us is my esteemed colleague, Dr. Shivang Trivedi, who's going to explain to us about these topics. And without further ado, we're going to go to our next question. So Shivang, thank you for that excellent talk on the non-medical way of treating high blood pressure. Now, let us talk about the medical way of treating high blood pressure. We know there are so many medications we use for treating high blood pressure. Can you tell us what patients should monitor at home when they are taking any kind of prescription blood pressure medications?
There are different medications that are available to treat high blood pressure besides lifestyle modification like exercise, watching diet, salt reduction. Patients must look out for any allergic reaction. They must look out for any adverse reaction, like if their blood pressure is going down very low, or they're feeling dizzy, or they pass out. Some medications like diuretics will make electrolytes dysfunction and electrolyte abnormalities, can affect kidneys and can affect other organs. So always look out for those medications and report them to your physician right away. By and large, most of the medications are very well tolerated, but as you know, any medication can cause any allergic reaction or adverse reaction, and they're always important to look for. Sometimes patients require 2 or 3 blood pressure medications. They may interact with each other, or they can interact with other medications that patient may be on. So it is always important to look out for those things.
Listen to your body. If your body is telling you a signal that something's not right, pick up the phone and call your doctor. And sometimes patients will say, oh, I felt silly calling my doctor because I didn't think anything was wrong. And I always tell my patients, listen, it may be silly, but better be safe than sorry. It's so interesting. I have patients who come into my office and we check their blood pressure and it's super high. And they walk out of my office and they go to their car, check the blood pressure, it is normal. And they have come back to the office with the blood pressure machine to show it that, look, doc, I really have white coat syndrome. And I don't even wear a white coat in the office, and neither do you.
No.
But still, this entity exists where the very thought of coming into a doctor's office,
Especially a cardiologist office.
Especially a cardiologist office, yes. And that's the other thing. They say, I went to my primary care the other day and my blood pressure was perfect. And in a cardiologist office, it is super high. So it's a well-known syndrome. And as Dr. Trivedi said, it really needs to be monitored very, very closely, because although your blood pressure at home or other doctor's office is normal, if at any point in a cardiologist's office or any other doctor's office, your blood pressure is on the higher side, you are at risk of developing hypertension or high blood pressure in the future, which may need medical management. And as you know, high blood pressure, if uncontrolled, can lead to strokes, heart attacks, and fatal conditions. A couple of other things about the white coat syndrome. What I do on some of my patients is make them sit in the office for a little while, maybe like 10 minutes, nice deep breathing, and tell them to relax. And then we check the blood pressure again. And when we see it coming down, that truly establishes the condition of white coat syndrome. So now that we are done with the treatment aspect of high blood pressure, can you tell us why do we need to treat high blood pressure? What are the dangers of untreated hypertension?
That's a very good question, Ranjita. High blood pressure, untreated, has significant comorbid conditions and fatalities. It can lead to heart attack, aortic aneurysm development, damage to the kidneys, damage to brain, including stroke and peripheral arterial disease. Blood pressure management, as you know, is extremely important in treating and reducing those comorbidities that are associated with uncontrolled hypertension. As you know, every 7 or 8 person with first heart attack or first stroke have high blood pressure at their diagnosis. There are about 1100 deaths every day because of hypertension or hypertension related comorbidities every day in United States according to the statistics. So treating hypertension is extremely important because of significantly high risk for death, significant high risk for complications, and problems associated with uncontrolled hypertension.
Shivang, great insight. As you rightly pointed out, hypertension or high blood pressure has very bad side effects and can cause damage to any of our organs from head to toe. Unfortunately, it's a silent killer, as we said, and some of these damages can be irreversible. And for example, for my father, who ended up on dialysis because of untreated high blood pressure and uncontrolled diabetes. And having seen him go through that, I would not have any of my patients or even myself go through that condition. We have with us Dr. Shivang Trivedi, and we are chatting about high blood pressure or hypertension. For those viewers who are joining us now, we had a little chat with Dr. Trivedi about non-medical management of high blood pressure by lifestyle modification. Then we had a talk about medical management with medications. And now we're going to talk about something interesting that has been coming up in the news. And I have labeled it as media and hypertension, and we're going to discuss some questions on it. Our first question on it is, what is the role of caffeine on high blood pressure? So Shivang, can you tell us, based on the recent news, how much caffeine should you take, and does caffeine have any role on causing high blood pressure, or does it have any role on high blood pressure?
That's a very good question, Ranjita. We do get this question quite often from the patients. I think caffeine has no role on causation of hypertension.
Agree
You
completely.
can easily have 1 or 2 cups of caffeinated drinks every day without having significant impact on your blood pressure. If the blood pressure is not under control, it is not caffeine, it is not the garlic, it is not the orange juice. It is because you have not been taking care of yourself, including non-medical management, or maybe you are missing out on the medication and you're not observing healthy lifestyle. But in general, I don't think caffeine has problem with other heart conditions, as you know. But regarding the blood pressure, I think caffeine is pretty safe.
I completely agree with you, Shivang, on this. But because of the media news about caffeine, we face this question often. And I, in my practice, often see patients come into the office and we check the blood pressure, it's high, and they say, Doc, I just had a big mug of coffee. And it's kind of hard to convince them that, buddy, the caffeine is not affecting your high blood pressure. It is because either you're not taking your medications, or the timing of your medications are wrong, or the medication needs to be adjusted. So
That's
patient
correct.
education on the caffeine intake is very, very important. And giving up caffeine completely is not the treatment for high blood pressure. But again, excessive caffeine is not beneficial for other conditions like arrhythmias and stuff like that also.
Correct.
So going on to our next question that we hear from our patient based on so-called media hype or media advertisement is what is the best time to take high blood pressure medication? So Shivang, can you tell us about this recent media news that blood pressure medication should ideally be taken at nighttime? What are your thoughts? What do you tell your patients? And give us an idea about it.
That's a very good question, Ranjita. There was a big trial in European Journal which was published in October of 2019 where they studied about 22,000 people over 10 years and concluded that patients taking blood pressure medications at night had improved cardiovascular outcome. Possible etiologies are that there is always a decrease in blood pressure during night and they are called dippers.
Exactly.
And some patients are called non-dippers where their blood pressure does not go adequately down during sleep, or on contrary that blood pressure goes up and they are called risers. And those patients who are non-dippers where their blood pressure does not go down during sleep or the blood pressure goes up during sleep, they have higher cardiovascular events in early morning. Their catecholamine levels sometimes go up. Their blood pressure regulatory mechanisms do not allow their blood pressure to go down adequately during sleep. And those patients, they have higher morbidity and mortality in morning hours. That was the conclusion. I tell my patients blood pressure has to be regulated 24 hours a day. That
Right.
means irrespective of what time you take, 24-hour blood pressure regulation and keeping it under control all throughout the day is more important than the timing.
Exactly.
Their work and their lifestyle may not agree with that, especially if patients who are elderly taking diuretic therapy.
Right.
If they take medication at night, they will be in the bathroom quite frequently during night. That will disturb their
And they will
lifestyle.
not be happy.
So my take on this is take the medications according to your schedule or lifestyle, but make sure the blood pressure is under control for 24 hours.
Thank you for your insight, and I completely agree with you on this because I face these questions also from my patients, and I tell them just to take their medications on the same time every day. So, if they are taking it in the morning, take it in the morning. If you're taking it at night, take it at night. Don't keep switching. If you miss it once in a while, in the morning you missed it, go ahead and take it in the afternoon, but try not to do it too often. Again, trials are trials, but patients are patients. The trials help us to treat our patients, but they are not the be all and end all applicable to all our patients. Going on to the next question, which has also been in the media, is about strict control of high blood pressure. As you know, recently the study came out where they're saying that patients with very strict blood pressure control, as rigid as 120/80, has better cardiovascular outcomes. What are your thoughts on this?
So that's another good question. I would suggest I adhere to the guidelines. The AHA and ACC guidelines show that the blood pressure goals are 130/80 millimeter mercury. However, they are not as stringent about diabetic patients where blood pressure should be that tightly regulated. Also, we have a lot of elderly patients who develop a lot of problems with tight control of blood pressure. They pass out. They feel very dizzy.
Exactly.
Some patients, they have problem on their kidneys. They develop acute kidney injury.
Right.
Some patients have significant electrolyte abnormalities on medications. So by and large, we always try to do evidence-based medicine and try to control their blood pressure around 130 systolic and close to 80 or under diastolic. But it's not always possible.
Right.
Patients, we have elderly patients, we have diabetic patients, we have African American patients. Everybody is different and they react differently to their medications. So control, ideal goal for blood pressure is one thing. However, tightly regulating has its own problems coming with that. So I would say blood pressure guidelines show that good blood pressure control of 130/80 is desirable and should be
Right.
aimed for. But elderly patients, patients with stroke, their blood pressure may be slightly higher than the guidelines, and I think that's okay.
Thank you, Shivang. And I completely agree with you what you said that we should adhere to all these guidelines because they are based on evidence based medicine, which is what we do for any kind of treatment management in our cardiovascular disease population. But as I just said, trials and trials, guidelines are guidelines, patients are patient. We have to put it in the patient perspective. For example, I have a systolic or the top blood pressure of 90, which may be severely low for another person, but that is my normal. That is how my body functions. In a similar way, we often see elderly people who do not tolerate a normal blood pressure of 120 or 130 because they may have other conditions, some neurological condition where when their blood pressure is controlled too stringently, they become drowsy, they are not able to function and do their activities of daily living, and it becomes like a poor quality of life. So we have to kind of tweak the guidelines in patient perspective, and that is not really explained in the guidelines, that is not looked upon in the trials. But when we talk to our patients, we obviously have to give them the guidelines, but we also have to explain to them that, you know what, you are not a patient that we can stick to the guidelines. We'll have to tolerate a little bit higher blood pressure to make your quality of life a little bit better.
And always do not treat the number, treat the patient.
Excellent way to kind of coming towards the end of this conversation. So, Shivang, some concluding thoughts?
As you know, Ranjita, blood pressure or hypertension is an extremely important and a major risk factor for cardiovascular comorbidities. Controlling blood pressure, timely diagnosis, educating patients about their healthy lifestyle, low salt, taking medications, and educate them about possible side effects, and most importantly, educate them about the importance of controlling blood pressure,
Right.
and the health benefits over time period of good blood pressure control is extremely important. And it's a major risk factor for cardiovascular
Right,
events,
right.
and it is detrimental to improve the quality of life and decrease the complications associated with
Exactly.
hypertension or uncontrolled hypertension is extremely important. And thank you very much for allowing me to participate in this program.
Thank you, Shivang. That was an excellent insight. Thank you for your valuable time and chatting about hypertension. Actually, I learned a lot too from you, right? So, viewers, take care of yourself. If you are thinking that you have high blood pressure or you have high blood pressure, please do take care of yourself. Go to your doctor. Check your blood pressure at home once in a while. Take out that blood pressure machine from your closet, dust it off, and check your blood pressure under resting condition. We know high blood pressure can be treated with exercise. You know, those happy hormones when you release, that is released when you exercise, helps in a lot of things, not only for reducing blood pressure, reducing strokes, heart attacks, cholesterol, glucose, and gives you that amazing sense of well-being that you are the winner of the world. So keep exercising, eat healthy, and be happy. Join us again next week, same time, same place. I will be here with another interesting chat with another specialist friend of mine, and I hope to see you then.